Welcome to episode 274 of the Center Ring Esports podcast presented by Alt. This is going to be the best episode ever because we are doing our very own Worlds preview. So Kevin Corea, our League of Legends correspondent, will join us later in the show and give you everything you need to know, the favorites, the not favorites, who you should put money on, and gamble responsibly. So he'll join us later to talk some League of Legends. And also, we're going to do a quick, serious CSGO State of the Union address. So we have a lot of rumors flying around, things that we need to address. So we'll get to that as well. And of course, a loaded e-news. It would make you think this is Monday, but no, this is just Thursday's episode. And we have a ton of e-news to get to, so don't miss that. But before we get to it, let me tell you about the show sponsor, Alt. Now, that's ULT for those who need the spelling. AltEsports.com is your one-stop shop for the best esports apparel in the universe. They have every style you can imagine. They have just released the special edition Dallas Empire Championship t-shirt. You can actually buy the package, and you can get a signed hat by Shotzi and Crim6. So that's both the Finals MVP and Season Rookie of the Year MVP? Something?
We might need to pull our weight, Tim, and go ahead and cop a couple of those.
I think we could. I think we could make that happen. You can go to Alt Esports, though. If you don't have the number one esports podcast and you can't cop things, you can go to altesports.com and get yourself some top-of-the-line apparels. They have more coming out. You can check them out on Twitter at Ultimate. Nate, the co-founder and friend of the show, best friend of the show, actually just did a YouTube video talking about their latest line coming out. It looks awesome. I cannot wait for that to come out. So check that video out on YouTube, and he explains their thought process and everything. So very interesting there as well. So check them out, altesports.com. and let them know the Center Ring sent you.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Stu2K from Cloud9, and you're listening to TCR.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello and welcome. Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of The Center Ring, a.k.a. TCR, a.k.a. your favorite esports podcast, presented by Alt. Yes, this is episode 274, and we are coming to you live and or pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The time, 8:50 p.m. The date, September 23rd, 2020. I think I did that in reverse order as normal. I think I normally give the date and then the time. So that feels weird. It is September 23rd, 2020. The time, 8:50 p.m. Central Time. Go follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring if you're not doing so already. Hit up our Discord. The description is in the chat. You will want to be in our Discord because we might be playing some Rocket League this weekend, as it is free to play now. So no excuses. You can join, and don't feel bad that you might suck, because we're right there with you. My name is Tim. I am your captain for this journey into esports, and as usual, my co-pilot, my right-hand man, my rock, my best friend, my brown friend, it's Anuj. What's up?
Been a while since we talked to Stewie, huh?
Yeah, well, I always love his liner, because it sounds... Let me end the music here for a second. We can play his liner turned up. It always sounds like we have him at gunpoint.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Stu2K from Cloud9, and you're listening to TCR.
Not as... I mean, we've had some people that say it a lot faster. Like some...
Yeah,
I guess
that wasn't bad. That was good.
In retrospect, it doesn't sound as bad.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Stu2K from Cloud9, and you're listening to TCR.
Yeah, his isn't as bad, I guess. It sounded faster in the intro, but...
Brings back good memories for sure, though.
Oh, it does. It does. That, I believe, was at DreamHack Austin. And we saw him sitting out in front of his hotel. And as content creators as we are, we went up and talked to him and said, hey, can we get a liner?
It's funny he remembered you in your stash and
He
your
did.
tank.
He did. It does help. I was probably wearing my Cloud9 tank for sure.
You were. Because it
So
was him and Jordan.
yes. Yeah, it was him
Nothing.
and Nothing sitting in front of the hotel, so we got him. I think it was also Skadoodle, and of course, Skadoodle is the white whale. He's our Moby Dick. We will never get a liner from Skadoodle. Maybe now that he's in Valorant, we can do it. But CSGO Skadoodle did not do interviews. And he didn't
It
even
was
do
actually
liners.
Skadoodle and Shroud were sitting there like texting, and Nothing and Stewie were walking around, and we just walked up to him.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's different time. But the good old days of NACS. Make NACS great again. Yeah, those were crazy times, man. Crazy times. We also have some crazy times going on in CS. If you want to jump into this right now, because we're going to have Kevin on the show here, he might actually interrupt our CS conversation, but that's okay because we're professionals. And when he's ready, we answer the call to talk some League of Legends. Let's get into some of our state of CS, though, if you'd want. Where do you want to start? Because there are rumors flying around that are so huge that it could really kind of shake the thing up.
Yeah, I mean, we can go with the rumors first, just to kind of throw them out there, and they definitely are rumors as of right now.
They are hard
like nothing.
rumors.
Yeah, and we can just start with that and maybe work our way into the ESL formatting and kind of go from there.
That works. So some of these rumors have been flowing around, and they've been heard on, I believe it was HLTV's podcast. I believe Sponge said it. Don't sue me if I'm wrong. So we'll say this, per sources. It is rumored that 100 Thieves, Evil Geniuses, and FaZe all have the thought has crossed their minds lately that CS might not be worth it in the long haul, and they want to get out. Now, I don't know how true that is, because for some of these guys, it makes absolutely zero sense to get out. For some of them, you could see it. 100
Okay, well, so who's the you could see it?
100 Thieves. That's I could see it, even though relatively new into the scene, recently bought roster, which is exactly the reason I can't see EG leaving. But, I mean, you kind of forget they're even in the scene as is.
I think it's because that, like, when you buy a roster and you don't form a roster, there's like also a sense of detachment there from the fan base, right? They bought who was it, Renegades, and that had a huge Australian fan base. Not something 100 Thieves is really connected with in that sense, right? Like,
No.
100 Thieves is as American as they come in that sense. Southern California branded, apparel is their key focus. Obviously, they're big in esports, but like apparel is obviously the primary focus, it feels, for them in content creation.
I've always felt like 100 Thieves, and this is no knock on 100 Thieves, but they are a content creating company that owns esports teams.
Yeah, like Nadeshot is that link, right?
Yeah.
Like he's COD God in that sense. So, yeah, I mean, for 100 Thieves, it would make sense to maybe either if they didn't want to drop completely, to like make a change that maybe fits their like lifestyle brand a little bit more, something that people can connect with here. They really haven't latched on with them, unfortunately. For FaZe and EG, a little different stories. Like EG is obviously paying outrageous salaries right now. Like, you just know that with the squad that they have, that they're probably paying a good amount. They're heavily invested into Counter-Strike, and they're good. I mean, they're a top 5 team. They're, regarded as the best NA team right now. But it wouldn't feel right for them to leave after they like kind of re-entered just not that long ago. I mean, I say not that long ago, it's been a couple years now, but like still there was that off period for them where they were gone, and then they came back and became relevant. Kind of look at them in complexity in a way, right? Like, really big in Counter-Strike at one point, had a vanishing act there for a handful of years, and then returned, stronger than ever.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I felt with EG. Like, when I heard EG thrown in there, I was like, the only way it would make sense is business first. And if business isn't generating revenue or income, then, I guess it doesn't really matter how long. Like, there is no timetable on that. If you're not making money, these guys are businessmen first, and they would back out. However, it does seem weird that after you just spent all that money to buy NRG's roster, which was an upcoming NA team, then now you have arguably the best NA team out there for you to then just say, this isn't working financially, we're out. Especially in a time of COVID, right? Like, I think that also kind of throws a weird spot into this, because where do you sit on that? Do you say, well, you're in a pandemic and you're losing money, you got to get out now before, like, stop the bleeding? Or do you say, we have to ride the ship so we can recoup some of the money lost during the pandemic, post-pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, again,
and that I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think every scenario is different, unfortunately. But
for FaZe, it makes a little bit more sense because FaZe is probably paying more than anybody for a Counter-Strike roster right now. I mean, you talk about who they have just between Coldzera, KRB, and Nico. They're probably shelling out easily 30K a month for each of them. And I know FaZe makes a ton of money, but this roster is not producing results for the kind of money that they're paying. And so for them, they obviously have a franchise in Call of Duty. They have the biggest streamer in the world right now in Nick Merckx, who they just signed to another 3-year deal. They're a content creation first brand. Like, there's a ton of money being dumped into Counter-Strike for a roster that is not giving them as much recognition as like what they've put in, because they have built, in terms of just a team, like a very good looking roster. You couldn't ask for much more, as a fan, honestly, of FaZe. Like, if you're a fan of FaZe, what more could you want? Like, even in tough times, they brought in Guardian before he had really fallen off. Like, Guardian had come onto that roster and was there through the 2008 Boston loss against Cloud9.
And I think that's a perfect thing to bring up with FaZe, because for me, FaZe is an org that got caught up in their own hype, which of course you do, right? You have to strike when that iron's hot. When you see your window, you will sign anyone for any amount to try and get it. They were right there in the major finals when they lost to Cloud9, not a big deal. And from there, I think they had that taste and they said, okay, we're right there. We were there. We are right on that fence. We just have to get that right signing. So then you saw, like, they tried a bunch of different pieces, a bunch of different, in-game leaders and here and there, and they tried mixing it up. And unfortunately for FaZe, it just never worked out. And so now you're on that, that, if you want to look at almost like a bell curve, right? Now you're on that slope downwards in the sense of it didn't work out. The team isn't rebounding. They're not sustaining that high level of play that we saw. Online could be part of it. You never know. But now it's like there's talks of G2 buying Nico. Well, if you're FaZe and you're going to sell one of your best players, is that sending the wrong message to the public that you're done?
Yeah, if you're selling Nico, that's a huge hit. I mean, like, you're losing one of the top players in the world, although he's underperformed the last year and a half. Like, I say underperformed, it's just it doesn't feel like it's been the same. Right? Like, I mean, anyone should be able to agree with that, at least, whether you think his form is off or whatever. But really, since they've lost Kerrigan, they've just seemed a little lost. Like, they just have never found the proper in-game leader to elevate their game. The signing of top pros hasn't been able to overcome the loss of a true in-game leader. I think if they had the same roster and you swap Rain for, Kerrigan, I think that, again, this team could be one of the top. Had they managed to land Alex, like, that really would have been helpful for him. But at this point, like, maybe you continue on this path and see how they do with a little bit more practice with KRB, because they probably haven't had a ton, realistically speaking. But it's been a letdown, and there's a lot of money going into that team. So if something were to happen there, I don't know if it would be truly, like, groundbreaking, because, look, I mean, like you said, business first, and right now it doesn't make sense to be, fighting top 10 when this roster should be competing for top 1 and 2 spots in the world consistently.
And one thing we forgot to bring up with 100 Thieves, the other one that this is kind of reinforcing the belief that maybe they're possibly out, is the fact that their coach, I'm a Pet, Chet, who had just signed with them, right? In the sense of, like, within the year, had just signed with them. It's kind of like, okay, well, why is your coach now saying publicly that he is thinking about leaving for Valorant? Does he know something behind the scenes where it's like, okay, are you guys looking to bounce out?
I think as a coach in Counter-Strike right now, it almost makes sense to make the move because you don't know what ruling Valve is going to come down with after all the findings come out from the whole scandal that's taken place between.
Do you think he was in on it? Maybe that's why he's
No,
leaving.
I don't. I
Should
really
we start?
don't. Like, I really,
Should we
really
start those
don't
rumors
think
right now? I'm a
that
pet.
would.
I'm a pet. Cheated. He knows it. He hasn't came clean, and that's why he's leaving for Valorant.
I would cry. I would really cry if he did. I don't think he is involved in it, but I think he's smart enough to understand the landscape. There's a lot of negative around Counter-Strike right now. We're about to find out what happened in MDL. We're about to find out that this whole freaking situation with the camera is about to come out. We're about to know. There's about to be so many names and teams like involved in this. It's going to be unreal, and so might be a smart move for him to take a step away and move into an up and coming esport. And we'll get more into Valorant later in E News because they have some huge announcements. That again, if you're looking at Valorant's future, it looks really promising. If you're looking at Counter Strikes right now, a little bit more uncertain.
And one last thing before we get to Kevin and do our little Worlds preview with him. OBO or Obo, however you want to say it. How do you say it properly?
I think it's OBO.
OBO, right? That's how I've always heard
Yeah.
it. But you never know with kids these days and their esports names. Has said that he is stepping down from Complexity. Now this is huge because he was like one of their young assets.
Yep.
I don't think he was expecting to possibly be in EU for as long as they have, and probably that has something to do with it. But still, for Complexity, a team that we have touted on the rise on this very show, has now looking at themselves saying like, well, shit, weren't expecting that one.
Yeah, I mean, forget on the rise. They've kind of risen, right? They're like a top 5 team in the world. They've posted great results in big tournaments. They've won a couple of them. They've, beat Astralis 2-0 in a couple of tournaments here. And, OBO was huge in those games for them, with 20, 30 plus frags in some of these games, like really able to go off. And so, yeah, they didn't see it coming. I mean, and unfortunately for him, we're talking about a 17-year-old living in Europe in COVID. It's probably really tough. And I'm sure this was like an incredibly difficult decision for him because he also, at 17, you understand the implications of your actions, right? Like, by leaving this team and what the NA scene is right now, it's a very risky move to do that.
Unless you're going to Cloud9, depending on where they set shop.
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly the only location that might make sense. But like, if Cloud9 is building a potential EU roster, like, what does that mean? Like, is he going to be able to play here? Or does he have to go back to EU? Because that defeats the purpose of leaving Complexity. So, yeah, below for Complexity, I have no idea. I really have no idea who they go out and pick up. The good thing is they're fighting in EU. So the talent pool is a little bit deeper. You have some resources that you're obviously willing to spend. You've shown that. So it's going to be a question of finding the right fit for this team because this team has found a way to gel. Like, I mean, they've really done an outstanding job. So you hate to see it, but I understand why he made the decision. Like, as a 17-year-old kid, that's tough. It's a tough spot to be in. Hard to blame him. You can't be mad at him. And I'm happy Complexity is kind of letting him walk away. It doesn't seem like without much fuss here. So
yeah,
just tough spot to be in for him.
Yeah, and it's just another. I think outsiders are going to say, well, this is another mark for NA. Like, NACS is hurting because of this, and I don't think this has anything to do with CS. I don't think it has anything to do with how the state of it's going or NA Counter-Strike in general. I think it has everything to do, like you said. It's a 17-year-old kid living away in EU. That's fun for the first couple of months, but then afterwards you're like, damn, kind of ready to be home. Like, he's feeling a lot more homesick on top of the grind, right? Like, you got to think, as a 17-year-old, it was already impressive that he could handle the grind as is, but now you're going to take him away from home in that type of distance. It's not just like a couple states over. You're not away from home for a week or two. it's like you are in Europe for months on end. That can get to you mentally. It can get to you mentally.
With the limited ability to be able to do things, right? Like
Yeah.
everything is, in heavy limitations right now. So it's not even just being away; it's being away in this world that we live in today, and it's got to be tough.
All right, so we still have some CS to get to. We have ESL scheduling updates, which of course has Flashpoint versus ESL. ESL can't make a tweet without Flashpoint saying something about it. The Flashpoint party, I should say, saying something about it. So of course we have that drama already to kick off. And we have some pros, Stewie saying some things that he's catching heat for. So we'll talk about that all later in the show. Right now, let's see if I can do this in a smooth, orderly fashion on Discord to get Kevin in the chat without breaking everything. And we can get a little world previews going. See, I don't think this is how I do it. Anuj, I might have to call you here in a second. I don't know why Discord makes this difficult.
Can't click on.
Oh, did it work? We have Anuj.
And we have Kevin.
Kevin.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, Kevin. That went smoother than I thought getting you. Normally, that never goes as smooth in Discord.
No, it worked out perfectly for me. I think you guys both look beautiful. It's been a while.
It has, dude. How are you?
It's been
Doing good. I'm freezing for whatever reason. This house now has working air conditioning, so I'm just like freezing my butt off.
That's
not a bad problem to have.
Beautiful thing to be able to say in Texas.
I'm gonna say, freezing cold. What was it? 2 weeks ago, it was 102 degrees outside. I couldn't even walk outside without the bottom of my shoes melting off.
Yeah, it's never fun. My office is in the front of the house, and when it's hot, if it's over 95, people often ask, Tim, why aren't you on as much in the summer? It's not like I'm active outside. It's because my office is so hot. I'm like, I can't. I will die. You can't play Valorant. I'm already getting worked up enough playing games. I can't do it in 95 weather. Just can't. All right, but we're not talking Valorant. We're not talking 95-degree weather. We're talking Worlds, Kevin. You are our official League of Legends correspondent. You can follow Kevin on Twitter at Corea24.
You got it.
That is correct. And he also hosts his very own esports podcast called Free to Play. Are we still doing that?
As far as I know, I'm still doing it. We've got some Worlds watch parties coming up soon. So once play-ins gets finished up, we'll do a group stages. And boy, oh boy, 3 a.m., esports has never been so sweet.
Now, we'll get to that in a moment. I want to ask you first, because of course, Worlds, it is happening. As of right now, it's still happening. Despite Vietnam not being able to go.
Yep.
Are you surprised that we're actually going through with it? Now on the show, I was this isn't going to happen. Put your money that it's not going to happen.
I said early on, I think back in June or July, I said on my show, and I think I said on your show before, the only way a Worlds event would ever work would be if it was an NBA, NHL type bubble where you had specific cities or places where players had to stay, had to be in the hotel rooms. There were designated areas for everybody to go to. That was the only reason that any of this could ever work. Sure enough, China is the spot. I think Shanghai is a wonderful locale for to do touristy things, I guess, if you're into that. But they have everything scheduled out for these players. Everything is literally down to the timing of everything is just perfectly matched up. And from what I'm hearing, the players are relatively enjoying it. They can't stream though for reasons they can't stream. But from the scrims that I've been hearing and watching, it looks like Worlds is ready to kick off come this Friday.
And you've even said then with the time and everything, it's going to be early for us.
Yes.
2 a.m., 3 a.m. I mean, it's in China. It's one of the, it happens, right? They say the same thing when there's a North American World, so I guess we can't complain too much. But I guess let's just get into it, if you don't mind. I'm kind of curious. Me, of course, you know me. I'm not like a huge League of Legends guy.
Right.
But I'm looking at the teams here. I don't see Cloud9.
Nope.
I don't see
No T1.
no T1, no Faker, which, by the way, what did I say after last Worlds, after he sucked? I said, Faker is a fake. He won't ever see Worlds again. I said he'll never win again.
You did say that last year.
Did I not say that last year? Where's he at?
Pull the tape. Pull the tape.
Where's Faker at? He's not here because he sucks. He's
and now we're the most hated. We are like the next most hated thing behind those like Korean dance groups like BTS and all that. You just moved us up very high. I mean, even Team Liquid, right? Like they're fighting for their livelihood here in the play-in games, right?
Yep.
And now the play-in games, if I'm not mistaken, Kevin, are there because the Vietnamese teams were unable to make it, right? So 4 teams will be.
There were always going to be play-in games. It was going to be either, it was going to be 24 teams no matter what happened, obviously.
They just added 2 more from the play-in games, right? To make it like 4 coming in.
Actually, no, they completely just forgot about 2 teams. They're like, you know what? We're just going to have 22 teams compete at Worlds from the start, from the get-go. Play-ins will just be a little lighter than usual. And so, obviously, you can't really replace the talent from these Vietnamese teams. It was just 2 of them. But the fact that they're not there still, it's a little bit of a talent, hole you have to fill. So you just kind of say, we can't fill these holes. Just play what we can, play what we have to, and then we'll figure it out. But, I mean, like Tim was saying earlier, though, there's no T1, there's no Invictus Gaming. 2 of your previous champions not even included. Cloud9 is out for the first time in how many years? 7 seasons or something ridiculous like that. Fnatic is pretty much the only team that's been competitive for the past, since the beginning of Worlds, who's made it through all these seasons. And it's kind of a toss-up, really. I mean, the favorite is Top Esports, and I think they're plus 650 to win it all. Behind them, G2, JD Gaming, all these, Chinese, Korean teams.
So is that a good thing? Like, is that something that you as a fan like? Because I know, and we see this all the time, right? And I've said it on the show. I love a Cinderella story.
Right.
Up until, like, the finals. Then I don't like the Cinderella story. I want to see my favorites win. I like to see the big dogs get to the finals and duke it out. Let the Cinderellas get to the semis and then lose. I don't want to see this hodgepodge of like, well, I guess all these teams are playing like ass going into the finals, so we'll see what happens.
Right. And I mean, in this case, you'd be very hard pressed not to find one of those, dynastic teams. It's just, it's not there. Who do you have? Team Liquid, TSM, G2, I guess, would be a competitive, pick to take it all. But most of these teams are looking for their first ever Worlds Championship or for the first time to make it to Worlds, period. Teams like, Legacy Esports, Mad Lions, they're really the Cinderella story of this past entire European split. Team Liquid, like you said earlier, Anuj, fighting for their lives in play-ins. A lot of these teams, they have kind of little stories here and there you got to kind of follow on Twitter, but for the most part, there's no real, dynastic team to really root for to win another one. The Cinderella stories are all over the place. I mean, you could take your pick. Like, who do you want to win? DRX? So the first time in 2 seasons, and they're making it to a Worlds spot based on their LCK championship points. Damn one. I mean, they have a little bit of pedigree, but like I said, it doesn't make any sense to really not root for any single team during these Worlds. I think we're going to get some really entertaining matches. Of course, I think this year's talent pool is just off the charts. Is how differing the meta has been between regions. I think we'll see it all come to a head at Worlds, especially during this playing period where it's just a lot of a crapshoot going on right now.
I do have the betting lines up in front of me if any of you are curious, because I think the top one would surprise you. Not in terms of who you picked, because you were right. It is Top Esports.
Right.
Their betting odds is plus 150. That's a pretty heavy favorite.
That is.
To me, that seems like a pretty heavy favorite going into it. Damn One is the next at 230, JD at 300, and then G2 at 750. And it starts to fall pretty drastically after that. You're right. Legacy would be one hell of a Cinderella story at 100,000 to 1 odds to pull it off.
I mean, I'm like, let's be honest, they're not going to pull it off. But those odds, if you've been keeping track of them over the past week, they've been fluctuating like crazy. Top esports, I think, was plus 300.
Yeah, you
on
could actually
some,
get pretty good numbers just the other
yeah,
day when I was looking at it.
which
But
is not bad for a heavy
remember,
favorite.
last
Plus
year
300.
with Fun Plus, did they end up winning last year, or did they just make the finals?
They did end up winning last
They ended
year.
up winning, and they were, I think, like somewhere in the middle of the pack going into it. Like they were still pretty far down the list as far as favorites go. So what I've learned with Worlds is that none of it matters because Faker's gonna screw it up somehow without even being there.
Hey, if you guys watched the new, they always drop a new music video for Worlds.
Yep.
They threw Faker in there, and I'm like, this obviously was before the summer split, before Faker and T1 were knocked out of the Worlds running. But yeah, he already ruined Worlds before it even happened.
We didn't talk about it last week when it was released. Do you like the song? Do you like the new World song?
I don't know. The last two I've kind of been like on the fence about, but like after a few listenings, it's like it's poppy enough to kind of be that kind of earwig you like so much. But I'm just like, right now it's too fresh. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm sure if you give me like 6 months, it'll be on my playlist nonstop.
So it has the singer from A Day to Remember, which I love. I love A Day to Remember.
Yes.
My issue with all the World songs, and this is just me in general, with like hype music, I don't really get it. I don't like it. But I think that's also just because I'm so stubborn. Anuj can probably attest to this. If you tell me to do something, I'm going to like do everything I can just to not do it. So if you're playing me a hype music to get hyped, I'm just going to like sit in my chair.
See, I think it's cool that they do something in general like that, though. I mean, it's unique, right? People were sitting there waiting for it.
This is also why
out.
it's weird. Because in the music video, like I promise you, no one has ever been threatened by a League of Legends player physically. And in the music video, they have them like all being badass pros, like fighting and doing all these flips and jumps. And I'm like, no, I can't buy it.
They're even riding bikes, and I'm like, you never see
Right.
anybody in esports doing any kind of exercise like that. Come on now.
Like, I just
Unrealistic.
can't get it. They are
At
a
least
little
not in
cheesy.
League.
Yeah, no, for sure.
They are a little cheesy. I get it. And the stage performance and the production is always great when it comes to World. The songs are, for me, a bit cheesy. They're always a bit cheesy.
With the time zone difference, it does kind of suck for me not being a hardcore fan, because obviously I'm not going to like wait up to watch it. I'll have to catch it on like VODs and all that afterwards just to see some of it. But it does suck because it takes away a little bit from the casual NA fan perspective, because obviously if it was on during a normal hour, you're going to have it on. Even if it's on your second monitor, you're going to have it on. Now with it being at 2 a.m., that's going to be a little rough because I'll have to go pick and choose the good games to go back and watch.
I wish it was at 2 a.m. Anuj. It's like 3 a.m. is when the games start, and they run all the way up until 8 o'clock in the morning. So right in time for you to go to work and catch a game or two.
I
So
can
the
watch
good
the one
news
in the
is the kid wakes up around 6, so
There you
maybe I can catch some of those like late games for them, early games for us over here.
For sure, for sure.
So then I know you said it's tough to really pick a favorite just with what's, where we're at with it. But who is your favorite going in?
Oh man, let's get wild with it. I'll say, you know what? I'll be a douchebag. I'll say TSM. I'll say TSM takes over Worlds, huh? Why not? I have like 3 buddies of mine who are all TSM, just like big old douchebags who love them. I don't get it, but I'm just, I'm gonna throw it out there and say, you know what? TSM takes it all just to piss off even more League fans.
Do you really in your heart believe that though, that TSM is going to take it all?
Yes, in my heart of hearts. No, God, no, I don't believe that. I think it's going to be more likely G2 or maybe JD Gaming. G2 has that chip on their shoulder from last season, falling to FunPlus in the finals. Second place isn't always a great feeling, especially in the, on the grand stage of things. And this is probably the grandest stage in esports at this point in time, especially with this being, I guess, the only real quote unquote major tournament happening this time of year. CSGO is their Rio major.
Hey, don't forget about Overwatch League.
Oh,
That's happening right now.
Gosh, that's still happening, isn't it?
That is still happening right now. It's funny that you say G2 because that's who I do catch myself rooting for just because of last year. That was heartbreaking for them to advance to the finals. There was so much of a high there for them. And then to lose to Fun Plus, which, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but they were favored to win, I think, against Fun Plus at the time. And so for them to fall the way they did, and you could see it like in Carlos's his interview afterwards, I think he was sitting there just cursing in the interview, his famous interview lines that he had in there. So I do catch myself rooting for them this time around to make it through.
No, I'm right there with you. And to be clear, the only people who really had G2 really winning it all was, in fact, most of the Western outlets. They had G2 winning it all, and I was just like, maybe people didn't watch the Chinese and Korean talents as much, but yeah, to get a 3-0 sweep against Fun Plus Phoenix, that's rough. That's real rough. And you're right; they're probably one of the teams that I really want to catch more often and see what exactly they have in store for us come Worlds. Which we got to wait until I think the first week of October is when group stages actually start. Right now, it's just play-ins all the way up until Wednesday. So, who's to say G2 doesn't come out and just fall flat on their face, get 0-3'd? It could happen.
And it's G2, so it could definitely happen.
Yeah.
Like, if there's one org that could just completely go 0-3, it's
G2.
It's G2.
But they would go 2-0 before they lost their next three. That's generally how they're used to doing it. So for Team Liquid, obviously a lot of buzz around them just being NA kind of fanboys here. Like for Team Liquid, is there a realistic chance if they make it through play-ins that they're able to compete in the group stage, in the main event, I should say?
It depends on which group they get matched up into, and this is where you hear like the group of death talk and all that. And really, the group you want to avoid at this point, I don't think they have any real indication of where these playing teams will go. You want to avoid Group B and Group D. Really, Group D, DRX, FlyQuest, Top Esports. You have, I think, 2 out of the top 8 favorites in that Group D. I don't want to be in that group. DRX is a Korean powerhouse. Top Esports is ridiculously strong at this point in time. They're off a hot streak. I don't want to compete against either of them. Maybe Group C can sneak one away against Fnatic and Gen G, but then you got to compete up against a Team Solo Mid, and that's just asking for trouble in NA rivalry right there. So, I mean, is it possible? Of course it is. If I had to put a percentage to it, I'd say there's like a 5% chance Team Liquid makes it out of play-ins and into a group where they can actually compete. There's like a 90% chance they just fall flat in play-ins. And there's another 5% chance they make it out of play-ins, but they get shoved into one of these death groups. And it's real tough to say because, like I said, the talent right now is just so widespread across these regions that even Group B with Rogue, it's tough. They come out of Europe and they're a powerhouse too. Fnatic, Gen G, Rogue, those 3 teams are just deadly in the Western Circuit. Eastern Circuit is kind of a crapshoot. Damwon, JD, they'll beat you down any good day. But realistically, I don't see Team Liquid really making it out of even a group stage at this point.
So you said Group D is the group of death, right? Like with DRX and Top Esports in there. What would be in your mind? I'm guessing, just because you didn't mention them a ton, is Group A the easiest group in your eyes right now?
They're probably tied for easiest group with. Actually, no, you're right. They are the easiest group right now. Suning, despite them coming out having a great showing in the LCK, I don't think they can really build on that momentum too much because it's just it's kind of the curse of the newlywed champions out of a region. You don't see them too often make it too deep out of China specifically. Especially the most recent split. I mean, last year we saw Fun Plus, of course, out of China. They won spring split. I believe they didn't win out of summer, but still, Machi Esports out of Taiwan, good competitive team. You could probably steal a series from them or two. You're probably not taking a series from G2, depending on how good you are. It's really, it's kind of, like I said, it's kind of a crapshoot at this point. Just talking through the possibilities, G2 still, the best team coming out of Europe, and that's a tall order to ask to take a series out of Group A in G2. In G2, it's kind of hard. It's not easy.
Now, I know a lot of our listeners, especially in the Discord, are Fnatic fanboys. So just to do them service, are we looking at a good Worlds performance of Fnatic? Is there a hope for them?
This, on paper, is probably one of the best Fnatic teams out there right now. So expect them to show up. The addition of Self-Made it speaks volumes, because this past year, like I think I told you guys last time I was on, Fnatic versus G2, the semifinal in the summer split, was going to be one to watch. And I was right. Went to 5 games. Now, the grand final, run it back for G2. They won it all, defeating Fnatic there. But that's not to say that Fnatic shouldn't be out of the running. They have not placed out of the top 4, I believe, in the past, I'm going to say like 6 seasons or so. They're a tough cookie to crack. And I think at this point in time, expect them to finish at least second place out of that group.
All right.
They will be the best dressed team there. They're gonna have Gucci watches and Nike gear, so
That's right.
they have that going.
Hey man, just give me the gaming chair with who's that fashion designer with the fancy ass gaming chair? I want that guy to sponsor my team. You kidding me? Leather bound chairs, all of the nines. It's amazing.
Well, Kevin, appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. Always love talking League with you. It's the only time we really ever do. So we appreciate
Somebody
it.
has to talk League, and I guess it has to be me in a guest role. So you know what? I'll be more than happy to do it for you guys for years to come.
Well, we appreciate you as always, buddy.
Are you guys taking? Is this officially now like the dad cast for you guys? You both have kids.
Yeah.
I have one on the way.
Yep. We're getting old.
It's become the dad cast for sure. We're learning. You know what? I understand the struggles Tim was going through early on with how much commitment the show becomes after all of this. It's been a lot of fun, but yeah, we are the official like old man gaming group over here.
There you go. That's stick with it, run with it, man.
Someone's got to tell these kids they need to wake up before 10 a.m. to play some games.
Really quick, that reminds me. Netflix has a documentary series out called High Score. If you guys haven't seen it yet, watch it. It's
not yet.
I watched the first episode so far, and I really enjoyed it.
They get into fighting games and everything later on. I think it would be a great, just conversation piece for you guys come off season esports. So
Might do the documentary thing for it that we've been doing. That might be a good.
Yeah,
one
we
to do.
haven't done one in a while, so we'll check it out. High Score. It's like episodic, right? So it's
yeah. I think it's
kind of pick a
5 or
good one
6
if you want
episodes.
to. All right, easy enough. High Score, Netflix. We'll check it out. All right, Kevin. Well, thank you again at Corea24 on Twitter. He's also in our Discord. So if you do have questions for Kevin, hit him up in our Discord channel. He'll love to answer all questions and chat. Watch some Worlds with him. If you see him on at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., hit him up. He'll be willing to talk to you. So there you go.
For sure, guys. Have fun, guys. Take it easy. Always enjoy coming on the show, guys.
All right,
Take
Kevin.
care, buddy.
We'll see ya.
Later.
Yeah.
Later. All right. Well, there he is. There is Kevin Corea. Good friend of the show, our League of Legends expert. In the midst of that interview, if you're watching live on Twitch, seems like my camera decided to die. So
It did.
there's that for you. But we're professionals and we roll with it. Don't ask me why last week the battery lasted and this week it doesn't. It's just technology for you. But here we are. All right, so there's Kevin. There's some Worlds. It does suck because there's like twice a year that I care about League of Legends, and that's sometimes when Cloud9 is playing and Worlds. To have it in China, it does suck. I won't complain about it because I know we get spoiled and a lot of the stuff happens in time zones that are convenient for us. But
EU is a lot easier to deal with.
we will
Then-
talk a lot. We'll talk about the 8 a.m. games.
They'll do a little recap. Somebody will make a recap video for us out there, I'm sure.
Yes. So looking forward to it, though. So that's always an exciting time, even from the production level alone. I wonder what the production will be like this year, because obviously, I mean, maybe not obviously. Maybe that's a dumb statement. Maybe they are allowing fans. I can't believe we're doing it, to be honest with you. I still don't believe it. I'm convinced just all the players have COVID, so they said, F it, just let them play. Like, they're not going to get any more.
Positive, and they're like, just, you know what, throw that test away. It's a false positive.
Yeah, like, we can't have more COVID, so just let them go. So I don't get it. But apparently they figured out how to... Apparently Riot has figured out how to transport people across the world without worrying about COVID, and other places are still just trying to figure out how to go to a grocery store. But
I mean, you talk about every region being involved too. That's pretty crazy.
yeah, and for only one to pop, like, to only one to be like, yeah, we can't send our guys there. Like, that's impressive. Kind of shocking. I have a feeling this might backfire, but hey.
If Riot had big balls, they would have hosted it in Wuhan, but whatever.
I mean, they're okay from what I hear now, so they could have. All right, so let's get back into the state of CS here. We ended with OBO stepping down from Complexity, so that leaves us then with the most up-to-date drama going on with ESL and Flashpoint. Flashpoint hasn't even started yet, and yet I think they like each other. I think this is like that schoolgirl crush where you just keep picking on the one you have a crush on in Nuge. I'm starting to think it's like that with Flashpoint and ESL, because ESL can't make a tweet without Thorin or Monty or someone from Flashpoint saying why it sucks.
No, it's 100% true. I mean, like, every time there's anything that ESL does is going to be a negative in Flashpoint's eyes right now. It doesn't mean that they're wrong.
ESL could be like, guys,
either, right?
We're going to take all the prize money, quadruple it, and then send half of it to charity for orphans. And Flashpoint would still be like, well, those orphans, though, I mean, one could grow up to be Hitler, so good job, ESL.
Or what are you doing with the other half of the money? Using it?
Right.
Like, you know, I mean, like I said, it doesn't mean that they're always necessarily wrong. I think this is pretty interesting because ESL just recently announced their 8-event tour plan for 2021. So they laid out all the dates ahead of time. Something that most people are appreciative for, because of the lack of scheduling throughout the year. Like, if things come up, you know, they overlap, and this kind of helps avoid that. I think what started, you know, ESL, when they released this schedule, Tim, in their statement, really made a big push for this to be a benefit to the players. Like, the whole, I don't know if you read the release by ESL or not, but the whole release was focused on, we're doing this for the players to help burnout, to address, you know, future scheduling issues that could come up, and here, we want to do this for y'all. Like, this is for you, and this is why we're doing it. I do think there's like some BS, you know, I'm going to call some BS on that, because it doesn't really alleviate a lot of those issues. And that's what Monty went into, is saying, you know, if you're saying this is because of a burnout issue, you're not really addressing that with what you're doing here. In ESL's most recent release, they released their tour schedule. Again, it's 8 events throughout the year. Tim, it's spread out over 145 days. Now, that does not mean that they are playing during all of that time, but that's kind of the duration of their tour is basically going to be 145 days. What they've done to help alleviate player burnout is, between like group stages and like main event type phases, they've put like a week's gap in between it. They say that'll also help build storylines and give individuals to make more content during that time to kind of build up for these main events. Well, I kind of see it in the other way, in the other light, that I believe they are doing this to try and control the ecosystem for Counter-Strike a little bit, because by giving these 1 week gaps, in some cases like week and a half, 2 weeks, 10 days, 12-day gaps that they're putting in there, these players really can't really do anything else during that time. You can't really commit to another event because you're preparing for the main event at, you know, in a big ESL event, right? You're forced to play in these ESL events because you need the ranking system, right? The point system, the way it's built up. You have to play in these events to qualify
Well,
for
and I also
later
assume
ones
like you're
down the
not
line.
traveling back and forth. Like surely not. I mean, maybe.
They'll be able. They were saying like, okay, they'll get to travel back home for a week, but like a lot of these teams won't take that opportunity to send them back home. They're going to make them boot camp generally, right? Like, hey, y'all need to. This is a time for
Yeah.
y'all to play. We're all here together. This is a time for us to do that, especially for a lot of the European teams. Maybe not everyone lives right next to each other.
Yeah.
Like they'll use that as boot camp opportunity, and so I don't think you're really alleviating the burnout situation. You're causing
So-
it, you're making it more difficult now for them to decide what tournaments they're going to play in.
I think it just depends on what you think the burnout is from. If you think the burnout is from the actual action of playing Counter-Strike, then sure, you have helped that. You have put breaks in between and they can de-stress and then get back to it. They can take a couple days and then get back to it, right? I agree with ESL in that sense. Where I do agree with Monty and Flashpoint and your point of view here is, well, we know how these guys' brains work. If you're at a tournament, if you're at an event, if you give them a week off, sure, it's like, hey, you're at a week off. Go hang out by the pool. Go relax. Go to Disneyland. Go do something in the area. But that's like not how their brains work. They're at a tournament. They're at an event. They're in competition mode, right? You could go to ESL or you could go to Disney World if it's in Anaheim. But hell, even from a normal person, you're on vacation. You might be relaxing, right? But you're still like, when you get home, what are you? You're like, man, there's no place like home. That's where the burnout comes from. The burnout comes from the travel and not being at home on top of playing, right? So if all you're doing is extending their travel or time they have to be away from home, then no, you're not solving the problem of burnout.
Even if they have the ability to travel back home, you're adding 2 additional flights then for them during the week,
Yeah, like
right? Because that means
how
they're going to have to go
relaxing
home.
is that to go home for 4 days to be like, guys, you got to turn right around to come back?
Like I usually don't unpack my suitcase for about 3 to 4 days.
No.
I mean, I'm not really settled.
This is the other
in
thing
that time
too,
frame.
where I'll make one more point on this, where I think people need to kind of open their eyes about. Flashpoint doesn't give a damn about ESL's schedule, and ESL doesn't give a damn about Flashpoint's schedule. That's one thing that we have to just accept the fact with. No matter how many times we kick and scream that these organizers need to get together and figure out a schedule that's not going to screw each other over and the players. Like ESL, why don't you take the first half of the year and Flashpoint takes the second half of the year, or vice versa, or whatever. Figure it out. They won't. They will never do it. They will lay out their schedule. They'll be like, well, you didn't look at the Excel spreadsheet we're all on, and then they'll move on. Because what they see is a schedule with openings. And if there's an opening in there, they're going to squeeze their tournament into there. And between traveling or this is, again, like you said, I think they're using the shroud of, no, these are to help the player burnout, in a sense of, no, we can now just control an entire week now and not actually put on production, and it stops you from doing it.
A lot of times during that week, they have media obligations. ESL might have content for them to shoot. Like, it's not going to really be overly relaxing. There'll be moments of relaxation, but you never really let your mind settle. Now, what's going to happen on top of this is all these other event organizers are now scrambling to find all these open dates to shove their events into. And so you might make it seem less chaotic, during your tour period, but making it more challenging for them, in between. And so I don't really know how I feel about it overall. I don't think it's doing what they're wanting it to do. And we've seen big names chime in. Adam A came in. He runs Esports Engine now, and he chimed in and kind of took Monty's side to this, that it's really just a tough calendar schedule that you've laid out. It's not really accomplishing what you say it's doing. And so we'll have to see how it plays out.
Yeah.
I just think it's going to make it more chaotic ultimately.
Now, I will say I do appreciate the irony that goes around in Counter-Strike, where anytime someone is like, these players have too much going on and they have too much burnout, I know the solution. I'm going to create my own tournament, and then it will have a different schedule, and it's going to help the player burn out. Meanwhile, all you're doing is filling in whatever actual break and gap they have with your own tournament. Right?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of all of this, is Flashpoint is like, hey, you're burning them out even more, and you don't even realize it. I know what we'll do. We'll create our schedule to also compact it. It's just like, maybe, and I'm not saying one needs to concede to the other, but maybe we just have too much. Maybe there's too much cooks in the kitchen. We have too many cooks in the kitchen right now, and maybe some need to step back. As I said before, maybe I think it will happen one time. And maybe not in our lifetime, but Valve will actually take control of the reins and say, all right, we're going to do an NFL on this bitch. We're going to have the NFL and the AFL, Flashpoint and ESL. You are going to have your own conferences and divisions, and we're going to meet up in the end for a finals.
That only happens if there's like a Counter-Strike Global Offensive 2, honestly. They've let it get too out of hand to kind of jump in at this point. They just don't... Valve is there to make money. They're doing that on Steam. They're doing that with Counter-Strike skins. I just don't ever see them stepping in at this point. Like, it's just too out of control, and they would step on too many people's toes to do that. Look, maybe in the long run, it becomes a good thing if ESL does take over the calendar in that sense and kind of becomes the ultimate league with them in DreamHack. Like, they have enough clout to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, with Flashpoint coming in with what they're trying to accomplish, that would suck, because I know that that's more of an org focused run situation, so we still don't really know which one is a better overall situation for the teams to make Counter-Strike healthy. But the way it is right now, it's highly oversaturated. I don't see this fixing any of those issues. I'm seeing them cramming in now 20 tournaments in between these dates ultimately.
And like I said, I feel like it's one of those where it's like Flashpoint is saying, no, ESL's doing it wrong. Let me show you how to run a proper tournament. And then they throw their own tournament in. And then it's just creating more tournaments within an already packed situation. And I'm not saying Flashpoint should concede and say, well, we don't want to create more of an issue, so we're just not going to have it.
No, that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. So I feel like at this point, Counter-Strike is almost cannibalizing themselves. Is that right? They're cannibalizing themselves in the sense of it's almost like the figureheads can't get along at all, so they'd rather just let the players and everything suffer burnout all along and whatever.
Yeah, definitely not doing themselves any justice over the past couple of weeks. Everything on social media for Counter-Strike has been tough, including Stewie's latest remarks. We talked about it briefly earlier, but Stewie had a hot take here the other day where he mentioned, he basically said F 10 a.m. start times. And in the ESL Pro League, or whatever they're playing in right now, I believe it's Pro League, complained about a 10 a.m. start time. And it started a lot of controversy. A lot of big names, again, came out and talked on the issue for and against it. People that were for it were like Alex and Kerrigan. Somebody that was highly against it was Major, who you've seen on the big stage before. Right now, he's not playing what you would consider top tier CS. I mean, he's on a very low ranked team at the moment, but he's been, I believe he's even played in the major with Space Soldiers, or maybe they had some issue. Either way, he's been on the biggest stage before. And, Major comes out with the tweet saying, people need to be aware of what we're doing, in the sense of, we are playing a game and making a lot of money doing it. Normal people, normal you and I type normal people, are waking up at 7 o'clock to do a job all day. And, they have to deal with that. It's just kind of the way life is. And there really is two sides to this. I understand where Stewie's coming from, right? In the sense that this is not routine. Right? This is not normal. We don't normally do this, so this throws off our schedule. But it does sound a little whiny, right? You can't deny, for people, this is where Cloud9 releasing salary money doesn't really help the player's cause, right? For stuff like this, because I know Stu is at least making Alex money or more, right? Like he's won a major. He's the leader on a top team for a massive org. He's making a ton of money right now, and so to be complaining about a start time, which is early in the sense of Counter-Strike early, but not early in the sense of normal everyday people early, it comes across as a little whiny. And so I think it was just he shouldn't have vocalized it. Honestly, he has the right to do so, but he should have just gone to the tournament organizer and maybe had a gripe with them to bring it up to them and see if he could have any change or movement that way. Maybe he did that, maybe he didn't. I don't know, but I just feel like voicing that online was probably not the best move because you're going to look a little spoiled when you're complaining about a 10 a.m. start time to play a game ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, I would 100% agree. I get it where if you're going to complain, because I also understand that with some of these tournaments, you're forced to stay up super late. And I understand as a pro, it's hard to have a schedule because it's not like a traditional sport where all your games are going to be 7, 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, right? You don't have set times. Sometimes you're playing super early. Sometimes you're playing super late. Where it does, like you said, where it comes off as kind of childish in the sense is to take it and complain on Twitter and be like, how brain dead can you be when it's like, bro, you know what's going to come from this. And it's like even Automatic ended up tweeting out saying, I love playing a game that I can wake up at 10 a.m. to play. And people were like, oh, like, and he was like, no, I'm not being ironic about it. Like I'm saying like, I can wake up at 10 a.m. and play. Like I don't have to wake up at 5 or 6 a.m. like a normal person. Like I realize I'm in a unique situation. So, I don't think every pro thinks that way. I'm sure Stewie, after he tweets it, is like, look, I realize I have a pretty cush gig. Like I understand that. But at the end of the day, like we've seen it. It's like even like when that Valorant tournament was that games were starting at like 9. And they're like, man, how can these players are really digging in deep to play at this time of day. It's like, it's 9 a.m. You're not asking them to wake up at 4. It's 9 a.m.
Even if they have to wake up a couple hours before that just to prepare and go over notes and all that. Like, again, I get it. It's tough, but these are like one-off kind of situations. Most of their stuff is done at a proper time for them, right? So it was like the one time it was done early, you get vocal about it. It just comes across a little rough. And look, I mean, this is where we differ from traditional sports. It's not a physical activity. It might be straining on your mental aspect, but it's not like you're just getting done playing a hockey game and the game ends at 10:30 and then we're telling you to wake up at 10 a.m. to play your next hockey game. Like that is probably physically impossible to do. Like in the terms of like, well, you and I both played hockey at a decently competitive level for what we've done, right? Like in that sense, it's like
for our bodies.
I wouldn't want to go to bed at 10 p.m. and then wake up at 10 a.m. to play another game.
So I have done that,
video
and
games.
It sucks, by the way. I've done the late game, early game turnaround in hockey. It's worse. Like that early game, you're done. You're not doing anything. But here's where it's like with an esport, it's kind of a double-edged sword or pick your poison, whatever you want to say, where, hey, guess what? You have an awesome gig. We can survive COVID because you don't have to leave the house. You can do everything you're doing online, right? The downside to that is the tournament organizers know that, and they know they don't have to account for travel time or business operation or venue hours, and they know they could say, hey, you have a game at 10 in the morning because we know you're not going anywhere and you can get up and do it. Ultimately, that's also the downside of playing games, is that, yes, it's crazy accessible and we can survive through a lot more than a traditional sport can, and it's a lot more accessible in that sense. But guess what? They know you're available every single day. They don't have to wait for your body to recoup. They don't have to wait for bruises or injuries to heal. They know they don't have to wait for travel time. They know they can put you on the schedule, and unless there's just another tournament conflicting, which has happened, they'll still run it and say, yeah, we'll wait. We'll wait. You can either forfeit or wait. One of the two.
Yeah, I mean, again, they don't have much choice, and it's not something that happens often. I that's just one time I wouldn't have said anything and just dealt with it. It just, again, not the best look. He did come out and, like you said, he did come out and kind of try and clarify himself a little bit.
I think that was a tired tweet. I think that was, he woke up and was like, ugh, it's complaining about Mondays, right? Because here's a good example, right? I complain about my job all the time. I say, man, I don't like my job, my full-time job, that is. I don't like it. Doesn't do anything for me. Ugh, I can't believe it's Monday already. There is someone making less money than me or not making money at all and lost their job recently saying, don't be a bitch. Don't complain about it. Be happy you have it, right? So it's not like Stewie is the only one doing this. We all do it. It's just I'm not making hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, very different.
Like, in that sense, it's very different. So I feel like every time we do the State of CSGO segment, it's us complaining about the game or highlighting bad things. I do want to say one thing. CSGO is still the GOAT. It is still perfectly going strong. It's still Bay. I think it's just it needs land back more than ever. I think that it's one of those esports that, although can be played online, I think the fans need LAN events. I think the pros need LAN events. The tournament organizers, it's just one that operates so much better and entirely different on LAN.
It does, but we're coming back to a different world after COVID. Like, in the sense that Valorant is now here, right? We didn't see Valorant in a pre-COVID world. I think Valorant's only going to get bigger. And so Counter-Strike needs to start, like, just kind of get itself together, right? It needs to figure out what it's going to do with the NA situation. We still have a lot of negative news to come. Okay, if you think this is as bad as it gets, like, this is little bickering that we're talking about here when it comes to Counter-Strike. We're about to get the info on the match fixing scandal and the coaching issue that we're about to run into. So the negative news is not going to stop, and it's only going to get worse. And other games are only going to catch up during that time. Again, Counter-Strike's still at the top, but at this point, that gap doesn't just seem as wide as it used to. Like, there's somebody lurking, and you got to be careful because you never know, how Valorant's going to do post-COVID. They could come out and their LAN events could be off the charts. We're going to get into some of this in E-News on what they have coming up. But, like, they're there. They're in your rearview mirror, and you have to be aware of them. And so if you're Counter-Strike, like, these are the reasons you want to take some of these conversations offline to avoid some of that negativity that we've just kind of seen around the game recently, because the negativity is not going to stop. There is a lot coming up right now that I think is going to blow people's minds, and it's going to only make it worse for the Counter-Strike esports scene.
So buckle up, buckaroo, because it's only getting started. It is only
It really is. Like,
started.
This is nothing. This is nothing to what one of our episodes will be in the next couple of weeks. It will be a Counter-Strike shit show episode. That's exactly what it'll be when these, ESIC findings come out and we know the truth about what really happened and how far this really dated back. Like, it's going to get nasty, and that'll literally be a whole episode, I'm sure.
That's why I'm a Pet's going to Valorant.
Makes sense.
From what I hear. That's why he's leaving Counter-Strike. All right, let's get into some E-News because we have a ton to get to. Obviously covered everything that we needed to for Counter-Strike. In Valorant, the global event will feature qualifiers. Oh, wait, is this their new one?
Yeah, so this is the new, what is it, Strike Fire?
First Strike. So they've announced, so now that their Ignition series is done, their next series coming up, which is going to be ran by Valorant, is First Strike. So very
and this
similar.
will be like full-blown, like Ignition series was kind of like a tester, like they were feeling the waters a little bit, kind of slightly being involved, like getting more of a blessing, and that this will be truly run by them, with a lot of updates coming prior to what Tim's about to tell you here.
Yeah, so the global event will feature qualifiers beginning in October, which will be spread out across North America, EU, Asia, and Oceanic, with multiple regional finals produced by Riot, occurring between December 3rd and the 6th. So, key takeaway there is produced by Riot. As we said, the Ignition series was more of a blessing. It was Riot saying, you know what, FaZe? Host the tournament, and you have our blessing. We'll back you up. You know, whatever you need, you let us know. But this is Riot. So obviously they've already said that they've done a whole lot of observation changes to help with the game and things like that. So expect
it'll look completely different than the way
Yeah.
we've been watching Valorant, because they will have the observer tools and a lot more ability to pause rounds and things like that. Like they're doing a lot of things for the game that's going to help for their production values. So
Yeah.
that'll be exciting to see.
Yep.
And
Now,
everybody's involved, Tim. Everybody, every region
yeah.
is literally playing in this. So that's
NA,
awesome.
EU, Asia, CIS, which is interesting because that was one where people have always said Valorant is not doing good in CIS because they don't have comms or things like that. Interested to see the talent coming out of that because it's such a game. I mean, Counter-Strike is so huge in the CIS region in the sense of like that's the game to play. So I'd be very interested to see that. Turkey, Middle East, Oceanic, as we said, Brazil, see what talent launches over there from the Counter-Strike scene. Now, this is the cool thing is that it is going to be open up to all the players above the rank of Mortal 1. So, and you have to be over the age of 16.
We're not that far away.
No, from either over the age of 16 or Immortal 1. So there's that. We can maybe create TCR. So there's that. Again, big takeaway there. It's being hosted by Riot. So again, this is going to be as close as we're going to get to what we will see as Valorant esports, right? When we kept talking, oh, okay, we're waiting. It's kind of here now. And so this will probably transition very smoothly for when LAN starts back up again. I will say in their video, okay, because I just like to call out people who pat themselves on the back. They said, like, despite the pandemic, we exceeded our expectations with the launch of Valorant. I'm like, because of the pandemic, you exceeded your expectations.
The whole world was sitting at home early on in the
Like,
pandemic.
did you hear
at
that?
that
Did
point.
you catch that too when he said that?
Yeah,
I was like,
I did.
Sir, I don't want to be like the naysayer here because everyone's having a good time, but it was definitely because the pandemic, Valorant broke every expectation. Last but not least for Valorant, you have Shanks, TTV, and Poised, both released from Dignitas. Shanks has been rumored to be part of the CSGO match fixing scandal. So
yeah,
there's
that'll be. I mean, his name has kind of been rumored quite a bit. So Shanks has been just mentioned a handful of times. They were both on trial, so both essentially just didn't make it over to the full roster. Which again is surprising because Dignitas was doing pretty well early on. But I think everybody is trying to avoid having players from the match fixing scandal again. That's why we think Envy released Calypso earlier.
Yeah. No, 100%. Those, look, as soon as your name gets thrown out in one of those rumors, you're having a phone call within the hour from your owner saying, better come clean now, because if we find out later, not going to be happy. Like,
it's one of those situations where you're screwed because it's going to come out, and if you come clean, you're gone either way. So
right.
Not going to help your case either way.
In COD, potential bubble for 2021 season, they're looking at Dallas or Las Vegas. Now, for those, since people on the internet seemed very confused by when they announced a bubble, people were like, what's that mean? I guess people don't follow sports like everyone else does. It's like the NHL, it's like the NBA, how they're doing it. All the players will go into a confined area, whether that be, I don't know where it would be in either one. Maybe like the Gaylord in Dallas, right? An area big enough to where it's like, hey, you can stretch your legs and whatnot. And they have to stay there. And so that way it's kind of in like their own little self-quarantine, but not in like just a hotel. So it's much kind of supposedly nicer.
Yeah, like the NBA is doing it at Disney World, for example, so They have some space, obviously, and
Yeah.
nice amenities. Scump had some pretty strong thoughts on this. He was like, if this is a 5-month bubble, like count me out, basically. Like, who the hell wants to be in a bubble for 5 months throughout a whole season? I don't see them doing it for a whole season. Like, that seems highly unlikely. If anything, it'd be just for like champs and maybe some sort of mid-season big land that they do.
Or they'll do like rotations where it's like, hey, these teams are going to come to the bubble. You're going to knock out these games. Okay, now these teams come to the bubble. We're going to knock out this games, and now swap, right? And so that way every team plays each other.
No way you're getting everybody for 5 months or something, or 4 months committed.
No.
No.
Now, that being said, even if it's for like 2 months or something like that, if you're going to be a player and complain about that, I want you to uninstall the game, hand in your retirement letter, and go play a different game. Because you didn't just sit here. Anuj, I didn't just listen to every pro player in COD bitch and cry for an entire season about online and how bad it sucks, to now say, if it goes into a bubble, no way I'm doing that. No way. Are you kidding? You just like were cursing the sun because you had to play online.
As long as the time frame is like an acceptable length, no one should be complaining. Again, 5 months, way too long.
That's long.
Not happening. But like a month, 2 months, possibly on the longest. That's probably manageable for everyone. Should be manageable.
And if you're gonna do like a 2 month or even a month bubble, my pro tip here: do not do it in Vegas, because no one's making it out of that one. You stick me in Vegas for a month, oh boy.
I'll find my way to the Strip somehow.
Yeah, you're not gonna get me to stay in one spot. Not gonna happen. So there's that. So obviously to be decided. Hope it's in Dallas. I will volunteer to stay at the bubble for 2 months if that's the case.
Yeah, if it's in Dallas, that'd be badass.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. In other team news, Seattle Surge has announced their new lineup, or some of it anyways, with Octane. Pristini ended up finding a home, Gunless, and Looney.
It's a pretty good lineup. I like that. Pristini, obviously, that's his hometown, so that's pretty cool. That, if you're going to find a comfortable situation
really?
for him. If you're finding a good spot for him without his brother.
Yeah, that's perfect. I think that's actually perfect for him.
It should be. Gunless obviously was the late drop from Optic when they picked up Pristini, so kind of funny to see both of them on the same team this year. And then Looney's back, with the team, which is pretty cool. By the way, he did his own reveal in his stream room. Nice setup, Looney. Mad props, dude. You got a clean looking setup over there. So that's a solid looking lineup, though. Building it around Octane, you got some fraggers, so that'll be good.
In other news, you have Comcast has announced its $50 million Fusion Arena up in Philadelphia has been put on hold, mainly sourcing COVID.
Due to COVID. Yeah, I don't think it's 100% due to COVID. If you're calling this the Fusion Arena and you're watching Overwatch currently, you have bigger concerns right now than COVID. Like, you are much more worried about the future of this game, and investing $50 million into something you probably already dumped 20 plus million into to have a team. Yeah, I think there's more than just COVID on the line here.
Another weird reason that maybe they did, I don't know, try to get a COD team. Like, if you're going to build an arena, you got to fill it as much as you can. And of course, this is also going to be like a concert venue and stuff. But yeah, COVID's got a lot of bad things, but people are using it for a lot of good excuses.
We do have a collector's edition piece if this arena never goes up. That paperweight that they gave us from the owner's
you still
box,
have it?
No big deal. Yeah, I still have it.
Do we have it? Okay, perfect. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be something there. A little esports history. The Game Awards are set, not the esports awards, the Game Awards are set to be for Thursday, December 10th, obviously done online.
Much more interested in the Game Awards than I am the esports awards, to be real.
Only by a little. Award shows don't do a whole... Listen, there was one
Game
time...
Awards, I'm always,
Now, Game Awards...
I learned about some titles that I should go back and play. That's kind of the benefit of the Game Awards.
Steam always does a sale.
Yeah, that's the nice thing. There's always going to be
I
some
like it
games on
because
sale.
there's games that go on sale.
Some game of the year
remember
editions all of
one
a sudden
time
pop
when-
up around that time.
Yeah, for sure. When Spike TV, do you remember what Spike TV was? It's no
Mhm.
longer a thing. Did the Game Awards. And one time Madden won Game of the Year. And ever since then, I was like, yeah, I'm done.
This is it.
I'm done. Thank you.
The only time Madden should have won Game of the Year is the year Hit Stick was introduced. That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
In cinema news, actually, let's do this one first. BlizzCon is set to take place February 19th through the 20th, and that will also be online. So obviously they canceled this year, said, hey, we're going to do it early next year. It is going to be online.
So can we say we attend back-to-back years if we watch online?
I believe you can. I mean, I buy the virtual ticket almost every time, so I feel like this is the case. I wonder, like, what they're going to do. Like, could we submit media passes? Like,
Oh yeah.
do we have, like, will we be in a special Discord or something? I don't know. I'll definitely reach out to them, but yes, BlizzCon will be online this year. You know, whatever. It is what it is. I guess on the bright side, this year wasn't going to be anything big revealed. So,
Diablo 4 for the second time and Diablo Immortals for the third time.
and Overwatch 2 for the second time. They're just they're just stretching out as many games. We're going to show you another Overwatch 2 cinematic. Like, okay. So there's that. And the fact that it's also a February probably tells you that none of the games are going to be dropped terribly soon.
Yeah.
So there's that. In other Blizzard news, Warcraft 2, that is the movie, is rumored to be actually happening, which is crazy because for the longest time, the Warcraft movie, the second one, was not happening. So, you know what?
I'd be pretty stoked for it to happen. Like, it'd be cool if they went into like the art this story or something at this
Yeah.
point, but it would be neat. I would love to. I didn't really care for the first movie,
Look,
but the fact that it was Warcraft, I enjoyed it.
I jokingly said it in our show chat when you posted this e-news, and I said, I was like, man, that was one of the worst movies of all time, but I loved every second of it.
Yeah.
I know it sucks, but I still enjoy it. It was still awesome. It was still Warcraft, and the costume and everything was great. It was just from a story standpoint. Look,
It was left a little bit
and
like,
I'll
on the
say, yeah,
table.
like my wife, who has no idea what's going on, was severely lost. And the only reason I knew what was going on is because I kind of knew the background story.
Yeah.
But from there, it was, whatever. And in other Blizzard news, you have former Blizzard CEO Mike Morhaime starts a new gaming studio and publishing company called Dreamhaven with Blizzard veterans.
This is huge because, like, obviously he stepped away after the sale and kind of Activision taking over everything. I'm very curious to see what they're putting together. They have veterans from Blizzard, as part of the team. They created 2 studios in Moonshot and Secret Door. Both are going to be producing their own unique titles and IPs they'll be releasing. And they took people from kind of all aspects of Blizzard, right? From World of Warcraft to the original Warcraft games, from Hearthstone, StarCraft veterans. So really curious to see if he can build something similar to what he built at Blizzard. Obviously, that's like such a high thing to shoot for, but even if it comes close, if they release a good game, people will like support them because of what he was able to do.
I mean, they've already, they have half the battle already won by just having their names on it, right?
Like, Activision has done such a shitty job with Blizzard IPs that anything he comes out with, if it's decent, people will be more likely to support him because of that.
Yeah. Rocket League has officially gone free to play today, so you can go ahead and download it. I'll say this. Maybe not this weekend. It all depends on timing wise, but we are definitely going to have a Rocket League night. It's free to play. There's no excuses not to do it. We're all bad at it. Don't feel bad. Don't be like, well, I've never played Rocket League before.
I'm terrible at Rocket League.
Awful.
Like, absolutely terrible.
I'm like that guy where I'll hit the ball in the air and I'm like, that should count for 2 goals because I just hit it in the air.
Like, I only go for the ball when it's on the ground. If it's in the air, there's no point in me trying to boost her up to it or
I
trying
cover
it.
the
Like,
I cover the
there's
low
none of
ground.
that.
I cover the low ground. So there's that. So download it. Well, it's only free on the Epic Store. Obviously, people are upset about that, but it's like, you know. So there's that for you. This is also, this happened a couple weeks or maybe last week when Shroud announced it, but I think it's just kind of interesting how it's happened. So Shroud has announced that he has his own gear with Logitech. So now Shroud has his own line with Logitech, the Logitech Pro gear. Doc has announced that his lineup with Rocat, and Razer has just dropped a wireless line of all their top stuff. The Black Widow keyboard, their new esports headset that looks actually extremely comfortable, and the best mouse in the world, the GOAT. It's finally gone wireless. The Death Adder. Oh my God.
I can't believe you've waited so long for this. You have to buy it now.
I didn't think I was going to make it. I thought I was going to be in my grave before Razer came out with a wireless Death Adder. I am so happy.
What's the price on it? Do you know?
Like 130, 120. So about,
sounds about right.
Yeah, I was gonna say about normal for a wireless. Now I'm just running the question of, we're right around the corner to the holidays. Should I just wait to get like a 10% off, or should I just buy it?
I think you just jump in.
I've waited so long.
You've been asking them on every social media outlet for the last 5 years to do this. Like, it's here.
I never comment on things on social media, like even on Twitter and stuff, but Razer's the one where every time they make an announcement, I'm like, if it's not the Death Adder, don't fucking say a thing.
Yep.
Like, I don't care.
So,
and now
I think
here.
they're like probably watching all their transactions for your name to pop up.
Yep. It's finally here. The Black Widow is a full-size keyboard, so that I'll probably wait on, but a wireless keyboard is also pretty intriguing.
It 100% is. I would love a wire. Like, I would want to go all wireless at this point.
If I could have a wireless keyboard, that is intriguing. It is a full keyboard though, which I haven't used a full keyboard in like probably 6 years. So
I'm back to a full keyboard now that I'm working from home.
I mean, I have one. See, I don't even use a full keyboard on my work computer. So I don't know how I feel about that. I'll probably wait for a wireless 10 keyless board, but
I also need some esports reviews on wireless keyboards.
that is true. Also, wireless keyboard, like 200 something bucks.
Eh.
Yeah, I'm not paying 200 bucks for a keyboard. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Not gonna happen. I'll pay 120 for a mouse. I'm not paying
The mouse
200
I
bucks.
can live with paying a little extra for, because it's just such an annoyance to have that cord
Cable,
going
yeah.
around.
Even with a bungee, I'm like constantly tugging on it. But either way, Razer fanboys rejoice. Logitech fanboys, Anuj, as yourself, you can finally get decked out in Shroud stuff. And
Won't be doing that unless he sends it to me, but that's still cool.
and Rocat fanboys, all 4 of you, you can now get Dr. Disrespect gear. So there's that. And other than that, that's it. So that's all we have for e-news for you today. And that will do it for the show. Episode 274. It's done. It's in the books. Thank you so much for listening. Whether or not you skipped around or listened to the whole thing, love you all the same. We will be back Sunday night. Heads up, our AMA is next Wednesday. So get the questions in. We've actually had a handful already, so they're great questions. So we'll do that next Wednesday's show in 1 week. Check out Worlds. Again, thank you so much to Kevin for coming on the show to do a little Worlds preview. Couldn't have done it without you. Literally. Could not have done that without you. And we'll see. We'll see what happens now between Sunday night when we go live again for yet another episode of The Center Ring presented by Alt. Join the Discord at The Center Ring. You can find it in the description. Play some Rocket League with us. Hit us up. We're always on. And also, maybe some Valorant this weekend. We'll see. We'll see. But until then, for Anuj, I'm Tim. We'll see ya.